A federal immigration officer shot and killed a man Saturday in Minneapolis, drawing hundreds of protesters onto the frigid streets and ratcheting up tensions in a city already shaken by another fatal shooting weeks earlier. Family members identified the man who was killed as Alex Pretti, a 37-year-old intensive care unit nurse who had protested President Donald Trump's immigration crackdown in his city. After the shooting, an angry crowd gathered and protesters clashed with federal immigration officers who wielded batons and deployed flashbangs. The Minnesota National Guard was assisting local police at the direction of Governor Tim Walz, officials said. Guard troops were sent to both the shooting site and to a federal building where officials have squared off with protesters daily. Information about what led up to the shooting was limited, Minneapolis Police Chief Brian O'Hara said. Department of Homeland Security spokesperson Tricia McLaughlin said in a statement that federal officers were conducting an operation and fired defensive shots after a man with a handgun approached them and violently resisted when officers tried to disarm him. O'Hara said police believe the man was a lawful gun owner with a permit to carry. DHS Secretary Kristi Noem said during a news conference that Pretti had shown up to impede a law enforcement operation. She questioned why he was armed but did not offer detail about whether Pretti drew the weapon or brandished it at officers. The officer who shot the man is an 8-year Border Patrol veteran, federal officials said. Trump weighed in on social media by lashing out at Walz and the Minneapolis mayor. Trump shared images of the gun that immigration officials said was recovered and said, "What is that all about? Where are the local police? Why weren't they allowed to protect ICE officers?" Trump, a Republican, said the Democratic governor and mayor are inciting insurrection with their pompous, dangerous, and arrogant rhetoric. Pretti was shot just over a mile from where an immigration and customs enforcement officer shot and killed 37-year-old Renee Good on January 7th, sparking widespread protests. Pretti's family released a statement Saturday evening saying they are heartbroken but also very angry, and calling him a kind-hearted soul who wanted to make a difference in the world through his work as a nurse. "The sickening lies told about our son by the administration are reprehensible and disgusting. Alex is clearly not holding a gun when attacked by Trump's murdering and cowardly IC thugs. He has his phone in his right hand and his empty left hand is raised above his head while trying to protect the woman IC, just pushed down all while being pepper sprayed," the family statement said. "Please get the truth out about our son. He was a good man." In a bystander video of Saturday's shooting obtained by the Associated Press, protesters can be heard blowing whistles and shouting profanities at federal officers on Nicollet Avenue. The video shows an officer shoving a person who is wearing a brown jacket, skirt, and black tights, and carrying a water bottle. That person reaches out for a man, and the two link up, embracing. The man, wearing a brown jacket and black hat, seems to be holding his phone up toward the officer. The same officer shoves the man in his chest, and the two, still embracing, fall back. The video then shifts to a different part of the street, and then comes back to the two individuals, unlinking from each other. The video shifts focus again, and then shows 3 officers surrounding the man. Soon at least 7 officers surround the man. One is on the man's back, and another who appears to have a canister in his hand strikes a blow to the man's chest. Several officers try to bring the man's arms behind his back as he appears to resist. As they pull his arms, his face is briefly visible on camera. The officer with the canister strikes the man near his head several times. A shot rings out, but with officers surrounding the man, it's not clear from where the shot came. Multiple officers back off the man after the shot. More shots are heard. Officers back away, and the man lies motionless on the street. The police chief appealed for calm, both from the public and from federal law enforcement. "Our demand today is for those federal agencies that are operating in our city to do so with the same discipline, humanity, and integrity that effective law enforcement in this country demands," the chief said. "We urge everyone to remain peaceful." Gregory Bovino of U.S. Border Patrol, who has commanded the Trump administration's big city immigration campaign, said the officer who shot the man had extensive training as a range safety officer and in using less lethal force. "This is only the latest attack on law enforcement. Across the country, the men and women of DHS have been attacked, shot at," he said. Walz said he had no confidence in federal officials and that the state would lead the investigation into the latest fatal shooting. But Drew Evans, superintendent of the Minnesota Bureau of Criminal Apprehension, said during a news conference that federal officers blocked his agency from the shooting scene even after it obtained a signed judicial warrant. Amid the unrest, Senate Democratic leader Chuck Schumer said Democrats will not vote for a spending package that includes money for DHS. Schumer's statement increases the possibility that the government could partially shut down on January 30th when funding runs out. Protests continue in Minneapolis. Protesters converged at the scene of the shooting despite dangerously cold weather. At midday Saturday, the worst of an extreme cold wave was over, but the temperature was still -6 degrees, -21 Celsius. After the shooting, an angry crowd gathered and screamed profanities at federal officers, calling them cowards and telling them to go home. One officer responded mockingly as he walked away, telling them, "Boo-hoo." Agents elsewhere shoved a yelling protester into a car. Protesters dragged garbage dumpsters from alleyways to block the streets, and people who gathered chanted, "Ice out now," and observing IC is not a crime. As dark fell, hundreds of people gathered quietly by a growing memorial at the site of the shooting. Some carried signs saying, "Justice for Alex Pretti." Others chanted Pretti's and goods names. A donut shop and a clothing store nearby stayed open, offering protesters a warm place, as well as water, coffee, and snacks. Caleb Spike said he came from a nearby suburb to show his support and his frustration. "It feels like every day something crazier happens," he said. "What's happening in our community is wrong. It's sickening, it's disgusting." The age of the man who was shot has been corrected to 37, per information from the police chief.